Well, President Trump speaking to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and reportedly giving him a stern ultimatum: leave the country or else. But as far as potential military action against the South American country, Trump is keeping his cards close to the vest.
We consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They send millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country, causing a lot of problems.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
Okay, joining us now is retired General Jack Keane, a Fox News senior strategic analyst. Good to have you on the program today, General. Obviously, the president hasn't explicitly said that regime change is the goal of the U.S. right now, but the Wall Street Journal editorial board made a very good point, laying out all the signals. We've closed airspace, all the warships, the naval fleet that's just in the Caribbean, not too far away from the country. How do you read these signs, and what do you think will happen over the coming days?
Well, I think it's pretty evident the president definitely wants a regime change there, and he's offering Maduro the opportunity to voluntarily do it, or he's likely to take some action. You know, presidents post-World War II certainly have been very involved in our Western Hemisphere and taking real interest in the security implications that take place there, coming from narco-trafficking, human trafficking, and just human rights abuses, etc. To be quite direct and specific about it, in 1989, George H.W. Bush directed a regime change in Panama of Noriega, who was running the country as a result of a fraudulent election, pretty similar, and also he was indicted by federal courts for criminal drug trafficking and human trafficking the year before in the United States. We also wanted to protect U.S. citizens, some 35,000 that were there. We put scores of troops in there to make that regime change. It was done quite successfully. In 1994, President Clinton directed a regime change in Haiti, where a military dictatorship had taken over from a duly democratically elected president, Aristide, and the mission was to return Aristide to power and let him run the country. The second thing is that there was significant mass migrations taking place to the United States because of the horrific human rights abuses that were taking place as a result of the military dictatorship. I give our viewers those examples because there's precedent here. Also, neither president had authorization from the Congress to do either one of those regime changes. There was limited discussion with the Congress prior to it, certainly, and considerably more discussion with it once the attacks began. But authorization did not take place. Certainly collaboration was taking place at the time. So we're on a path. I think it's quite similar here. And the president has a lot of options. He can do limited attacks to get his attention further. He can continue to demonstrate the status quo, which he's doing right now with military power in the region and issuing threats, or he can do something more significant, as our previous presidents did.
The moves that we're making with Venezuela, what signal does that send to Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think whenever the United States is exercising its power and influence, all of our adversaries clearly pay attention. Most graphically was when the United States delivered a decisive blow supporting Israel's attack on Iran and pushed Iran back to in a position we haven't seen for 44 years, and so weakened that regime. Certainly President Xi's paying attention to that and so is Putin. They all got aggressive in the intervening years between Trump 1 and Trump 2. There's no disputing the fact. He invaded Ukraine, Putin did, because he thought he was going to get away with it. And he thought the signals were very clear after the Afghanistan debacle that the United States didn't have much stomach for this. And President Xi became considerably more aggressive in imposing his will on the region and stating time and time again, I want to replace the United States as the world's global power.
Yeah.
This is sort of the mess that the president inherited here and is trying to deal with it. And the same thing dealing with Maduro. This is a criminal who's shielding his criminal activity by his presidential political power. And you got to see them for what it is and what its impact is on the United States. We have a president for the first time in multiple presidents, Republican and Democrat, be frank about it, who's really taking the narco-trafficking, fentanyl, and obviously cocaine and the rest of the drugs as a poison that is impacting American citizens. And we got to take a strategic look at how we do it, stop it, not just this country, and it also involves China. And that is to be applauded. We can argue over the means, for sure. But this is the first president that's taken a holistic approach to it.
And I think it says a lot that China and Russia are just staying out of all of this, just watching what happens. General, thanks for joining us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.